Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Build Your Deal Pipeline with Reonomy. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Today, Jess and I will be discussing how leading property professionals are using Reonomy to discover new opportunities, build a network of owners and key contacts, and understand the potential of their markets. First, just a little bit of housekeeping. To keep the noise down, everyone's on mute. We're recording the session, so afterwards all registrants will be emailed a link to this session as well. Please feel free to submit any questions or comments within the chat. If there's time at the end, hopefully we'll get to a few questions, but if we don't, someone will reach out with answers for you. I also want to mention during the seminar, we're going to have a couple polls, and we definitely really appreciate everyone answering the poll and taking time. Let's try and make it a bit more interactive. So I'm James. I'm Director of Product Management for Market Insights Products, which includes the data product Reonomy. I've been with Altus for 10 plus years, and I've been in the real estate technology sector for 25. And I have my colleague with me here today, Jessica Sullivan. Jess has been working at Altus for the last decade. She now specializes in technology and data solutions for commercial real estate as a real estate solutions expert.
Hey, James, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We're about to get into, looking at some of the challenges that CRE professionals are facing in today's market, and then we're going to showcase some of the capabilities that Reonomy has that can really start to help deliver solutions and kind of solve for those challenges. But just quickly, I wanted to mention we have our annual user conference, Altus Connect, coming up very soon in September. At that conference, we are going to really get into how Altus is expanding our data and AI capabilities. We'll have some special announcements. And Zach Cass, former head of go-to-market for Open API AI, there we go, is going to be delivering the keynote there.
Excellent. So now we're going to turn off our camera so we can focus on the main message. And we're going to start off with our first poll just to get to know who's joined us today. So just let us know, a broker, investor owner, property service provider, research analyst, or other. So we'll just give it a few seconds for...
Give it a few seconds. Thanks to everybody who is responding. This really gives us a good perspective and an understanding of who's listening today, and so we can tailor some of our comments. For anybody who is joining today and they're a little bit less familiar with Altus Group, James, can you maybe share a little bit more as we're kind of wrapping up the poll here?
Sure. So, sort of in a nutshell, we're a leading provider of fund and asset level technology and intelligence for the commercial real estate industry. We're backed by deep expertise in standard setting technologies. We support clients across the globe, offices in so many countries to list, and we support them, their real estate needs, including data analytics, also services like property tax valuation and technology. Oh, super. So we definitely got a good mix today. That's great. So before we talk about Reonomy and how we can use the tool to find properties and the information you need, we want to quickly run through some of our own research and show you why it's important. So every quarter, Altus does a conditions and sentiment survey, and as luck would have it, our Q2 report was released yesterday. So it's like fresh off the presses, and I believe you'll be getting access to that, to the full report. There's a lot of information packed into that report, but for the sake of time, I want to highlight a few of the more applicable findings. So this chart, a lot of stuff on it, but it's showing the responses for the 12-month outlook for key metrics. Overall, the respondents anticipate either stability or an increase in the key metrics, which should translate into an increase of opportunities for all participants in the CRE space. The three metrics at the bottom of the chart stand out to me as it's a consensus is that not only will we expect an increase in transactional activity, but it'll be coupled with an increase in attractive investment opportunities, which I believe is in part driven by the increase in the CRE credit distress. So we're going to skip to our next poll question. Wondering what your opinion is on the outlook for the next 12 months. Do you think real estate transactions will dramatically increase, somewhat increase, stay the same, or decrease?
James, what are you expecting for transaction activity over the next year or so? I mean, from your perspective, do you see more people buying or selling?
Well, I definitely have the luxury of reading through the whole report, which is great. And definitely once everyone else gets access and reads through, you'll see that in the report, there's deeper dives into all these metrics that we're showing. And there's a deeper dive into the sentiment around transactional activity. And the respondents anticipated activity to pick up over the next 6 months. The smaller investors indicated they're anticipating to sell more, and the larger investors looking to more on the acquire side of things. But overall, what I found interesting is 80% of those respondents were indicating they expect over the next 6 months to buy, sell, or do both. So the next,
I think we want to, there we go. There's our results.
This is super.
Very interesting. It seems like sentiments look to be in line on, with today's participants as those that we, surveyed as a part of the report.
Definitely. The next chart I wanted to highlight, it shows the respondents' expectations for the availability of capital over the next 12 months. The percentage of respondents that thought capital was going to be available ranged from 56 to 84%, depending on the source. You'll notice that in the equity source categories, we have individuals, the family offices, and the funds, the private equity and hedge funds. They definitely have the highest percentage response indicated that capital will be very available. But overall, there's capital to be deployed, which supports, of course, the other sentiment of increased transaction activity. So, Jeff, considering the survey results indicate there's an availability of capital and there's an increase in transaction activity, I'm going to hazard a guess there'll be more competition for the marketed assets and greater need to have access to CRE data and the ability to identify off-market opportunities. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are not focused on the commercial real estate transaction, but are in the business of servicing the commercial properties, I believe there'll be a lot more attention paid to these properties over the coming months. Being prepared, having the ability to execute quickly will be key. Identifying the right properties, having access to the right tools will be very important. So how does Reonomy support these needs and provide users with the capability to identify these opportunities?
That's exactly the question we're going to answer as we go into a live walkthrough of the Reonomy platform. Just before we do that, a couple of things. One, shout out to Altus Group's research team who conducted the survey amongst the participants and put out our quarterly report, and they do that every quarter. So thank you for that information that we could look at today and share with the audience. Again, it's posted in the chat. Now let's get a little bit better. We're going to transition to one more poll question here to get better acquainted. We're just wondering, what is your experience with Reonomy? For those of you on the phone, are you an active user with a subscription or using a free trial? You've used it in the past or never seen it before. And just while that poll is up, I'm going to take us out of the slideshow and I'll let you guys keep answering for a second there, and just talk to you a little bit about what Reonomy is if you are coming to this as kind of a fresh first-time user. So Reonomy is a secure web-based application. It's hosted in AWS. That's just a fancy way to say I can get to it online. It's a website. Reonomy is really trying to solve for that problem of fragmented, disparate commercial real estate data sets. whether you are subscribing to different data sources or you are doing the research yourself, Googling all day long. It really historically has been difficult to build that clear picture of the property landscape because you've got information spread across so many sources and extraction options can be pretty limited. So there is you should be able now to see the live website. We're going to go into this, run some searches, and talk about best practices around usage. But I'll just quickly mention that there is a machine learning platform behind the scenes of this website that is connecting and putting together all of the many data sets that we pull in so that we can, through Reonomy, provide this one-stop shop for up-to-date and accurate commercial real estate data for the US. We are covering, like I said, assets all over the US. That includes multifamily, office properties, industrial, retail, all commercial properties, right? So for reference, we have 150 million-ish properties in the United States. 100 million of those are single-family rentals, and we're providing the actionable insights through Reonomy for the remaining around 54 million. Now, you can search within the web platform by an address. If you've got a specific location you want to find, you can enter an address, a point of interest, or even a specific owner whose portfolio you're looking to explore or get to know a little bit more. You can also start to leverage our many filters so that you'll start to curate a list of properties that meet maybe certain investment criterion. I'm just going to take us into the advanced search, and today we're going to look at how I would be able to create a lead list using the filtered search, and we are going to target multifamily. Let me just quickly do a refresh here so we can see this from a fresh perspective, and I'll go into that advanced search. There you go. So you can now see I've got the whole of the US, and we have just almost that 54 million commercial properties in the US. Now, this is a live search, right? So I'm going to start by picking out my target location. Today, we're going to pick Portland. So I'll start by entering Portland in the search box. I'll be able to choose an MSA, a city. Maybe I'm targeting a specific neighborhood if I really want to focus in on a specific market. There are points of interest. I'll choose the MSA for our example today. And immediately I am going to be taken into a market overview. This is giving me some key statistics so that I can get an understanding of who, what, and where people are investing in this market in the last year or so. You have different charts and graphs here that are going to show different figures around a history of sales and debt transactions for the market. And that will include information around the types of owners that are investing in this market, recent transactions, and some CMBS kind of high-level details. You also have, with this market info page, a demographics tab. This is really just giving you a visualization of your market of interest's growth trajectories. That's going to also include some historicals here, but as I think what's even more impactful becomes our nowcast. So we're showing you what these data points are on the ground today for figures like household income, population growth. There are unemployment rates, and we have various other economic and demographic indicators here for your particular investment market. Now, we're really focused on creating that lead list today rather than some of the other research that happens around that. So I'm just going to go back up to the top of my screen and get into our additional filters so that we can start to refine our lead list that we're generating. And now, instead of just looking at every commercial property that's available in Portland, I'm going to narrow this down, add some filters. I will focus on multifamily properties today. So I'm going to include mixed use in that. So office resi, retail resi, and multifamily general. I'll hop over next to the building and lot tab. And here I'm going to select a minimum number of units so that I'm only returning search results that are a minimum of 50 units. So I'm not going to be looking at some of those smaller types of properties, but I will mention from the multifamily side, we have duplexes and all the way up to multifamily from that kind of residential perspective. Just not that single family component. You can select for things like opportunity zones, look at specific zoning requirements or building area measures, depending on exactly what you are looking for. I am going to continue on, and so that I get a successful pitch list at the end of all this searching that I'm doing, I could go into the owner tab here, and I could, for example, select I only want to get property results that contain owner contact information. So I want to make sure I'm getting a phone number or an email address. Another option I could choose here to make sure that I'm really targeting, really kind of properties we would consider pretty actionable, maybe receptive to an off-market offer. I could go over to the sales filter tab here, and there are different sales filters available, like the price, or if a transaction has occurred for the property. Maybe I don't want to see anything that's transacted in the last 3 months or so. But what I want to draw your attention to here is our likely to sell filter. This is a predictive indicator. And so you can see when I select it, it does start to adjust to the number of results that we'll get within the Portland MSA. But essentially, it's a machine learning algorithm. It's looking at the property's attributes and the market that it's in. So for example, it will look at how long has it been held by the same owner? When's the debt maturing on the property? What's the transaction velocity of the region for this region that the property is in against some of the most recent sales dates for this property? And we can look at that, and with the relationships between those data points, we can start to use it as a predictive indicator. So for example, a property that has debt maturing next year is going to be more likely to sell than a property with debt maturing in 10 years time. So I always like to highlight this machine learning algorithm because it could help you in identifying, that potential off-market listing, but it is still learning, right? So keep in mind, results from this are going to need vetting, further vetting. It's just, hey, the conditions look really right for this owner to be interested in a potential offer. Now, I am not going to use this filter today just because it does restrict our list of results. And so if I were looking for something actionable, I could start to work on this afternoon, get on the phone, start emailing. I would probably select something like this. But today we're going to cast a little bit of a wider net. So I'm going to deselect that and apply some different filters that we'll look at. Here I'm going to select the debt filter next, and I'm going to adjust the debt amount so that I get property results that fit a target profile of $1 million mortgage or more. Now, these mortgage amounts, keep in mind that is going to be for the original amount borrowed, not the remaining balance as of today. We can also filter on things like origination or maturity dates here. For example, if we want to look at everything that's coming due in the next 2 years. You'll also have the option to look at CMBS markets. That will include for a property that has either a current or history of a CMBS loan. That'll have additional financial details when we get down to our property results. Now, in this case, I am done curating my list of target properties. I've got all my filters in place. We can see in the ticker that's up in the right-hand corner of my screen, we have just north of 50 properties in the Portland MSA that are meeting all my criteria. So I am going to apply my filters, and this screen is going to update. Now, to make sure that I'm looking at the best prospects first within my list, I am going to sort this list of results. So I've got my sort item here, and I'm going to sort from most to least likely to sell. So from most likely to sell to least. And in this current view, I have the property cards over on the left of the screen. I've got the map. I can start to navigate through different properties over on the right. And I'll just point out, if you like the web application view, it is available, and that's what we'll explore here a little bit further today. But I'll also mention that you are not stuck with the data just in the web application. So there are export options, whether you want to use the report feature and send out a PDF that has some images and high-level details, or if you want more of the details and you want to be able to pick and choose the level of information that's coming out around these assets, there's an export option over just to the side here that will let us send out a CSV or Excel file type of the search results, so that you can start to create, something more official with your own logos on your side. Now we are going to select one of these properties to look at so you can get an idea of the information that's being produced for a property within Reonomy. I start out with very top of the screen. I've got that satellite Google image of the asset with the tax parcel outlined. I can see that there is a high likelihood that this property will sell, so conditions look right for a potential offer. We get the address and the APN, and then I'm first going to take us into the building and lot tab. We can really think of this as the physical characteristics around a property. So the year that it was built, renovated, the building area, how many units there are, lot size, zoning, all of that kind of information is going to show up here. Over on the owner tab, there's going to be quite a few pieces of information that you'll see. You'll notice there's underneath owners a box around the first owner listed, and that's because this is the owner that Reonomy has resolved to. So we are certainly not getting very technical here on this call. I will just mention that our results are being tagged with these unique IDs, and the IDs are tying all this information together. So we are able to identify, based on some of the information that is coming in, that while maybe when the last sale transaction occurred, the reported owner, the kind of legal entry, and what was reported with the county was the Parkside Apartments. However, based on all of the information we've been able to uncover, we can actually tie that back to Investment Property Group. So we are able to uncover really another level than what's available at the county level through the tax assessor's office. We can also see on this screen, this owners tab, how many contacts are associated with the property. We've got icons to show you where we've got phone numbers, emails, mailing addresses, what their titles are. And there are some hyperlinks on this page as well. So for example, Investment Property Group, that company name is a hyperlink, which we could click on to go over to the owner portfolio page. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. Now, I'll quickly mention our search today is really focused on multifamily properties. So we're not seeing occupants data in these results, but just so that everybody is aware, occupant information is primarily used when we're looking for triple net type occupants. Over on the sales tab, this is where we're going to see a history of sales transactions. And as we scroll down, we can see more information. And as we scroll across, finding out, is this a what type of transaction was this, and when did it occur, and who was involved from a buying and selling perspective. Over on the debt tab, we're going to include any loan information that we have available. If there is a commercial mortgage-backed security loan on this property, we're going to have more detail. I was mentioning this earlier, beyond just the signatories and the loan amount. We'll start to include details like interest rates, loan terms, performance, and additional notes, which you can see if I click view. I start to get some of that information: original loan to value, the adjust arm margin, and so on. Now, any property that has that CMBS loan is going to give you a little bit of extra information. So you'll also get a financials tab of information that is going to have performance metrics for the last couple of years that they had to report for the CMBS loan. If this is available, you'll be able to see things on the financial tab like your cash flow figures, so net cash flow, debt service coverage ratio, operating expenses, NOI, and so on. I'm not going to skip past taxes. So for anybody who was like, wait, she skipped one, we are going to come right back here to see the most recent 3 to 5 years for values like tax assessed value, tax rate, and land market value, among other types of figures. This data is coming directly from the respective tax assessor's office. And then there is a notes tab that lets teams share notes with one another if you have multiple users from an organization in one environment. So that is where you have some public notes. We can start to notify and tag other users. Private notes are more of a note to self, help me remember. And you can also start to add labels to properties if you want to include some organization and more easily find them in the future. I'm just going to hop back to our list of property results. Now, depending on what your primary focus with Reonomy is, you could search your results by owners rather than property by property. The owner search can start to be helpful as you start to determine, okay, what's the size of the owner for this property that I've discovered and am potentially targeting. So with a bit more explanation in the Reonomy data, the owner search can really start to help in determining where you can, which contacts are there and who might be worthy of an outreach. So I can see as a list of owner results, an overview of some of their portfolios and assessed values, how many properties are overall in the whole portfolio, and how many properties they have that are meeting your search results today. I'm going to choose investment property group since we just saw it on the last property card. And when I select that link, I go now into the owner portfolio. This is going to show me what other properties and asset types where the owner has invested. There is this first overview dashboard where I can see things like total properties, assessed value in square feet for all of those properties, and concentration by MSA, and some information around the company family. There is a properties tab that breaks down by property type and starts to report on some high-level statistics. You'll have each property in the portfolio listed individually that you can, from here, click through and get into the contacts available within those assets. And then finally, I'll highlight there's a contacts tab. This is any people, their roles that are associated, and contact details if we have those. Now, I'm conscious that we're right at time for our 30 minutes. So as we wrap up, remember that, Reonomy has this wealth, a whole database of property information across the US. It has details on ownership, tenants, transactions, mortgages, CMBS markets, And we offer the technology to support data ingestion and normalization of that information with APIs or bulk data feeds so that you can start to do things like commingle your Reonomy data with other data sources you might have. Today, I think we've taken a pretty comprehensive look, not only at the market and where everyone stands, but how you can use Reonomy to start to discover new opportunities and streamline your research processes. James, I know we're 1 minute over. Curious, do we have time for any questions that might have come through the chat, or is it time to wrap?
Well, we had a pretty quiet group today, so I think we're good to wrap and let everyone get back to their day. But I definitely thank you, Jess, for going through this. I just want to remind everyone, you'll be emailed a link to the webinar. So I know it was a lot to digest in a half hour, so you can watch it again. To wrap up, I definitely want to thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate you giving your time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.